Good morning. I'm Richard Clark. Dee Dee Camhi is a member of this fellowship. Her son, Eric Majors, who has been working in the field of sustainability, will join her for today's presentation. They both will be speaking remotely from Massachusetts. First, they will look at the topic of sustainability as a whole, what Eric is doing to further the cause, and then talk a little about the present state of the world. And so, I just want to welcome you with live from Fellowship Hall and Massachusetts. It's our LCUUF Sunday service. Our announcements were on a slideshow before the service. If you didn't see them, no worry. They'll be sent by mail, email in the next day or so.
Good morning. Our chalice lighting words today are adapted from the UU website. We light this chalice to welcome the spirit of life into our lives together today and forevermore. May this light rekindle the faith, the trust, the hope, and the love, which is the true image of the spirit of life, and we are made in the spirit's image. We light this chalice in a special way to ask for a divine healing for the earth. As this flame continues burning and the wax melts away, let also our pain melt away. As this flame goes up and the wax melts away, let the spirit of our beloved ones who have transformed from this life go in peace and live in paradise. May this be our humble prayer. Amen. Please light your chalice.
We kindle this light in celebration for the life that we share.
Each week we take time to remind ourselves that we belong to a community which cares for each other. We do this by sharing any significant joys or sorrows in our lives. If you have a joy or a sorrow to share today, in the fellowship, raise your hand and we'll bring you a microphone. We'll also read those emailed to Trudy before this service. First, let us voice our sorrows or concerns. Whatever you or the world may be holding that is in need of our healing and caring thoughts. In the fellowship, raise your hand and we'll bring you the mic. And Trudy will read those that are emailed to us.
Bill, I have one joy. Bill White shares a joy that he and Helen are returning to Mexico this week.
Now, let us recall the joys. Whatever you may be celebrating, whatever evokes a feeling of joy or peace for yourself or others. In the fellowship, please raise your hand and we'll bring you the mic.
I just want you to light a candle of joy in silence. Thank you.
And Trudy will read those emailed to her.
And I was a little premature. Bill White shares a joy that he and Helen are returning to Mexico this week.
And now for the care candle.
Oh, I had some concerns to read. Richard?
Please.
Okay. First, John DeWall shares a concern for the growth of fascism in the United States and worries that citizens will lose the right to vote. And this gives me a concern that when John, a man who grew up under Nazi occupation, sees fascism growing in the US, we should believe him and be very frightened. And finally, Lou and I share a candle of concern for our friend Catherine Gonzalez.
And now for our candle from the care committee. Many of us have had sorrows that are too hard to talk about. We've lost friends, family, husbands, wives, children, and we light this candle for those sorrows that are just too difficult to talk about, but are with us in our hearts every day.
And now let's do our meditation. Please sit comfortably in your seats. Place your hands in your laps. Close your eyes and imagine you are at some beautiful place on earth. Anywhere you want can do, just as long as it is a special place for you. Now I will read a lovely poem by Kelly Roper about the sacred earth. It's called Thankful. These are the things I'm thankful for. The sweet smell of flowers in springtime, beautiful clear blue skies above me, the feeling of damp grass beneath my bare feet, the sound of a free running stream, the warmth of the sun on my cheeks, the sight of a field filled with corn, the sound of birds singing in the trees, the taste of fresh picked raspberries, crisp, clear autumn mornings, the sound of leaves crunching beneath my feet, the sound of pumpkins growing in fields, the sight of snowflakes frolicking, the first chill of winter in the air on the breeze, watching children skate on a frozen pond, and seeing the first robins of spring. I hope that future generations will still have these things to be thankful for. So, what is sustainability? Let's watch a short video that explains what this concept is. The video starts a little loud, so you might want to turn your volume down a bit. Here goes.
This is Peter. Peter is a teacher. He's sure that he leads a sustainable life. He buys organic products at the supermarket, rides to work on a bike, and his lights use green electricity. But is that really sustainable living? Let's go back to the beginning. Even in the 18th century, people were interested in the environment. For example, Karl von Carlowitz realized that you shouldn't cut down more trees than will grow again to replace them. So he had recognized the basic principle of sustainability. Nowadays, sustainability is seen as a global concept. This can be explained with the help of the three-pillar model. The model is based on environmental, economic, and social considerations, which must always be regarded as belonging together. First, the environmental pillar. It includes, among other things, climate protection, which is widespread, protection of resources, and biodiversity. Also, food should be grown organically. That is, we should stop using pesticides, and farm animals should be given fodder produced on the farm. We must use natural resources more sparingly too. One of them is petrol, which we need for our cars. But sooner or later this resource will be exhausted, so there'll be no fuel for the cars. This is why we're looking very hard for an environmentally friendly alternative, so that future generations will have environmentally friendly cars. Electric ones, for example. The next pillar is the economy, that is, business and industry. In future, at the supermarket, Peter should only find produce that's in season in his region, like strawberries in summer. Mangoes from Brazil or bananas from Colombia and Ecuador arrive by air from a very long way away. Transporting them causes a lot of pollution. The third pillar of sustainability is the social element. Goals here include, for example, better education and training opportunities, equal rights for men and women, fighting poverty, and prosperity for the whole of humanity. One beverage manufacturer from an industrialized country has quite a bit of catching up to do here. It repeatedly takes over the wells of villages in India because it needs the water to make its products there. That isn't very sustainable. Peter doesn't think so either. After all, at least a little water should be left in the wells for the Indian population. So Peter tries to do justice to the three-pillar model. When he buys organically grown produce, when he goes to work on his bike, and by using green power from wind turbines, he really does live sustainably. But be careful. A lot of companies exploit consumers' environmental awareness. Not all the products that claim to be from fair trade or organic farming are sustainable. It's up to consumers to be well informed about the products they're consuming.
Thank you, Peter. And that certainly shows us what sustainability is all about. In 2015, the United Nations put together the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. They are as follows.
Goal number 1, no poverty. End poverty in all its forms everywhere.
Goal number 2, zero hunger. Let no one in the world go to sleep hungry at night.
Goal number 3, health. Ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all ages.
Goal number 4, education. Education enables upward socioeconomic mobility and is a key to escaping poverty.
Goal number 5, gender equality. Achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls.
Goal number 6, water and sanitation. Ensure access to water and sanitation for all.
Goal number 7, energy. Ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy.
Goal number 8, economic growth. Promote inclusive and sustainable economic growth, employment, and decent work for all.
Goal number 9, infrastructure and industrialization. Build resilient infrastructure, promote sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation.
Goal number 10, inequality. Reduce inequality within and among countries.
Goal number 11, cities. Make cities inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable.
Goal number 12, sustainable consumption and production. Ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns.
Goal number 13, climate action. Take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts.
Goal number 14, oceans. Conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas, and marine resources.
Goal number 15, biodiversity, forests, and desertification. Sustainably manage forests, combat desertification, halt and reverse land degradation, and halt biodiversity loss.
Goal 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. Promote just, peaceful, and inclusive societies.
And finally, goal number 17, partnerships. Revitalize the global partnership for sustainable development.
These goals are truly remarkable. I know everyone participating in this service today is aware of the fact that they are far-reaching and extremely optimistic. We all stand up, raise our hands and our heads, and proclaim, yes, of course, I'm in, man. What can I do? I want my children, grandchildren, and all people of the world to be free of abject poverty, live with full stomachs and healthy bodies, drink clean water, be well educated, and be accepted for exactly who they are. They should have access to affordable and reliable energy, get a job solely based on their merit and abilities, and be able to live in a safe, clean, and well-protected environment. They should be protected from being exposed to rising temperatures, dirty oceans, lakes, and other water sources. And of course, they should live in peaceful societies where justice prevails for all. But we live in a very different world. A world where many adult children go to bed hungry, frightened, and unsure about their destinies. We all know the reality and cringe when we listen to just a few of these facts. Fact: each year, an estimated 1/3 of all food produced, equivalent to 1.3 billion tons worth around $1 trillion, ends up rotting in the bins of consumers and retailers, or spoiling due to poor transportation and harvesting practices. Fact: should the global population reach 9.6 billion by 2050, the equivalent of almost 3 planets could be required to provide the natural resources needed to sustain current lifestyles. Fact, 2019, just 2 years ago, was the second warmest year on record and the end of the warmest decade ever recorded. Fact, carbon dioxide levels and other greenhouse gases in the atmosphere rose to new records in 2020. Fact, climate change is affecting every country on every continent. It is disrupting national economies and affecting lives. Weather patterns are changing, sea levels are rising, and weather events are becoming more extreme. Although greenhouse gas emissions dropped about 6% in 2020 due to travel bans and economic slowdowns resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic, this improvement is only temporary. Climate change is not on pause. Now that the global economy is recovering from the pandemic, emissions are expected to return to even higher levels. Saving lives and livelihoods requires urgent action to address both the pandemic and the climate emergency. I can go on and on about this dire situation as we, as individuals, states, nations, continents, that we're in, but I won't. Because I know that there is hope. I still remain an optimist. I want to introduce you to someone who takes the situation of this world's reality to heart and is doing his part to help our world and future generations. There are millions just like him, and we are so lucky to have them in our environments. My son, Eric Majors, is from Gloucester, Massachusetts, and is now living 8 months a year in Mexico with my husband Larry and me. He is in Mexico because he loves Mexico, and he can do all his work remotely when he is down here. So, Eric, how did you get into the field of sustainability?
Hi. So I'm a 20-year veteran teacher in public schools in Massachusetts. I taught Spanish, Project Adventure, which is like adventure education, health, and for the last 10 years of my tenure, I taught sustainability. I strongly believe in project-based learning and students taking the lead in their education. I also strongly believe in the future of a healthy and sustainable planet, and it's in serious jeopardy, and we're impacting our Earth in remarkable ways that are so destructive. I fear we may have already passed the tipping point, sadly. We have and continue to act incredibly recklessly with our fragile ecosystem around the globe. My passion developed into the idea of providing students with the ability to make effective change in their school community through a program I designed called Green Scholars, providing students the opportunity to manage a project that directly affects themselves and their entire community. Students lead projects like waste, energy, and water consumption reduction and conservation. They set up composting systems and school gardens where the food grown is actually served in cafeterias. They were able to completely, in one school, overhaul their waste management system, including incorporating aquaponics, hydroponics, solar and wind turbines. Over the 10 years that I developed this program, I taught thousands of educators across the country on Green Scholars model. I was incredibly fortunate to be honored at the White House twice in the Obama administration and was Climate Educator of the Year. But what I'm most proud of is that my work in sustainability education has impacted thousands of students over the years. Having stayed in touch with hundreds, I am excited to share that many are pursuing amazing careers in sustainability, environmental sciences, and STEM. You know what STEM is: science, technology, engineering, and math. Although teaching was incredibly rewarding, I had a strong interest in having a greater impact on the world. So in 2017, I left education to start a non-for-profit charitable organization called Seaside Sustainability. Seaside's mission is to protect and restore our oceans by educating people of all ages about the critical issues that threaten our environment, to promote best practice sustainability and inspire meaningful advocacy and hands-on action. We have 4 principal areas of work that range from local to Gloucester, Mass, to international. Green Scholars, I told you a little bit about it. It's a nationally award-winning curriculum designed for middle school and high school students based on greening a school from the inside out. Students engage in launching and managing projects that have positive impacts on sustainable footprints of their school. The projects are as varied as student interests. Projects like waste reduction, full school composting systems, on-site gardens and greenhouses, hydroponics, green cleaning, installation of solar arrays, energy and water reduction, and lots more. I've successfully trained thousands of educators around the country, impacting hundreds of thousands of students, and excited for the launch of our online platform in the next year, making Green Scholars accessible to all schools across the country, maybe even the world. The other division we have, or we actually have 4, in Seaside's Marine Science and Education Division, Seaside manages several sciences and education programs for all ages, concentrating on ocean stewardship. Our marine science and education programs are designed for a wide range of people, from young elementary school students excited and eager to learn, families, adults, undergraduate and graduate students engage in environmental studies, and everyone in between. Most of our programs focus on reducing marine debris, with a priority focus on reducing plastics from entering our marine environments. We work with an array of blue technologies like robots that clean beaches, ocean vacuums that filter debris, trawls towed from boats that collect plastics, and studying the prevalence and density of plastics in the water column surrounding beaches and sediments in the seafloor. Our third division is Legislative and Advocacy Division. We are focused on leading local and national efforts in single-use plastic consumption, which is astronomically high and gets higher every year. We led one of the most comprehensive single-use plastic bans in the country in Rockport, Massachusetts, banning everything from straws to styrofoam to single-use water bottles. If you know anything about that, it's very challenging to do. We have assisted dozens of cities and towns around the world in their own legislative efforts to eliminate single-use plastics. Using the extensive knowledge we gained in this effort, we developed a how-to guide, which is a playbook on how to pass single-use plastic legislation in any municipality. We are becoming increasingly focused now on state and national legislative efforts on EPR, which if you know what that means or don't know, it's called Extended Producer Responsibility, which essentially puts the onus on the company producing the plastics opposed to the consumer, which it is now. And finally, our fourth division is our Green Schools Consulting. We work with schools all around the country to shrink their environmental impact and footprints. Our consulting arm is different than most, as we're driven to creating tangible change through effective actions. So what that means is giving the schools the opportunity to implement changes themselves. It's like that saying, you give a person a fish and they can eat for a day, teach them to fish and they can eat for a lifetime. We are driven in teaching our schools how to be sustainable opposed to doing it for them. Our future in this division will open up consultation opportunities in businesses and universities, and we're eager to help more organizations make effective change for themselves. So here is a short video on Seaside's leadership team, our board, and what gives us all the drive to be involved.
The communities in Cape Ann, where we all live and work and play and love, are being affected by climate change and sea level rise. And we want Seaside to be a player and an active participant in mitigating climate change and mitigating sea level rise for the betterment of all of us.
If you get back to the basic idea of sustainability, we give back to the environment as much as we take from it, or more. And, the idea of net zero is good, but it doesn't go far enough. Net zero energy means we're not actually restoring the imbalance that's been created over the last 200 years.
Each of us can play a role in this, and I think we all have to get away from saying, well, I'm only one person, what can I do?
What that means is upstream solutions to prevent pollution before it happens. So not just putting all of the responsibility on an individual, but also looking upstream at our broader community.
The old saw, think globally, act locally.
That saying, think globally, act locally, really has a significant meaning.
That's exactly the approach that we take.
It's that change in perspective. I think that's probably like one of the things we do is to get people to look at something differently. And the way to do that is through education, right? You have to educate people in order to get them to think differently.
The steps you take to get to the outcome, I think, is missed in education. And for me, that's what's really important, is that process.
We try things, doesn't work, we try something else. Eric has infinite energy to keep trying new things.
When I first started Seaside, I had a lot of interests, and I wanted to see what worked, what part of sustainability worked. I didn't want to just be an organization that was about, just about climate change. I wanted to be able to do something.
He's very good at empowering young people, enabling them to feel like they can take charge and change something.
I want to make our country sustainable, and the best way to do it, I think, is getting our kids to understand as they grow up, they're going to learn, like, hey, we're messing up our environment, all you adults. Okay, thanks a lot, and let's do something about it.
You are empowering young people to be like, you can call and make a move on legislation. You can get a hold of the print shop and do this, or, why don't you call so-and-so?
I meet a couple of times a week with up to 10 or 12 interns who are literally all around the country. They're not all majoring in sustainability or in environmental education or environmental science. It's the gamut of what you'd expect to find in society in general, but all of them have a passion for making the world a better place and helping us to live more sustainably. Everyone who's involved in Seaside has that as the core mission of why we do what we do.
We want people to think differently and be aware of what their actions are doing to the planet. And think long-term what's happening, the 2050 statistic that there's going to be more plastic than fish.
Considering the big picture, but what kinds of things can Seaside do? We're a small organization. The more people that we can reach, the more impact we can have on Cape Ann, the more awareness we can bring to the problems that we're facing globally.
Many of the issues and topics for environment and sustainability and clean waterways that Seaside deals with are truly interdisciplinary and require shared solutions from a variety of stakeholders.
Our legislation division started doing local ordinances and bylaws in cities and towns on banning single-use plastics.
In Rockport, Massachusetts, Seaside helped champion one of the most comprehensive single-use plastic bans in the country.
One of the most important things that we try to do as well is partner with other organizations that complement our mission or amplify our mission.
No one group can own it alone.
This is not a check it off the list, we're done, now we can move on. This is going to need and continues to need sustained funding, sustained involvement by volunteers and board members and the community. We're in it for the long haul.
Thank you. So my favorite aspect of Seaside and our organization is our amazing international internship program. We host over 300 interns every year from far off countries like China, India, South Africa, Australia, Japan, and more. Actually, one of our interns is from Chapala, which is interesting. Interns work in 12 departments collectively, putting in more than 55,000 hours every year. And also, interestingly, our internship program is accredited in over 1,200 colleges and universities from around the world, which means those students that are in those schools can actually get credit for taking their internship, which a lot of them do. That's undergrad and graduate. So take a look at this cool intern video.
A common definition used for sustainability is meeting the needs of the present without jeopardizing the needs of the future.
If we don't start thinking today and making changes today, we will face the consequences and effects when it is too late to change a thing.
We need to take care of the environment for all people. And so my vision of sustainability is one in which all people understand the deep connection between themselves and the natural environment.
Communities that are zero waste, communities that can support themselves or create a circular system.
From the ways we get to work, to the energy we use, to the food we eat, and even the clothes we wear, sustainability needs to be all around us.
It starts with things like, avoiding plastic straws or recycling, and moves to bigger things like cleaning up lakes and, interning at an organization like Seaside.
The work that all of Seaside Sustainability's interns are doing is extremely important, especially now. With climate change greatly affecting the world and an ever-increasing number of environmental problems, it is necessary to help fight for a better environment.
The current Seaside Sustainability project that I'm working on right now is with our partnership with Step Change Clothing. Step Change Clothing takes recycled materials from plastic bottles and turns them into socks and t-shirts. We're trying to make a demand for recycled materials with our apparel.
At Seaside, I work as an intern manager and a project manager for grants. I really enjoy writing grants and finding new ways to fund our projects, because without grant funding, we're really not able to do a lot of what we want to do.
Seaside allows interns to learn any type of skill they really want. I wanted to learn more about website, and so I got put on the website development team. And there's a ton of skills I never would have learned in my coursework that I've now gotten to learn here.
I'm currently working on a team to expand our Green Scholars program into a video curriculum so that it can be used by schools all across the country. I'm developing programs that will engage students in meaningful work and that will uplift the next generation of sustainability leaders. I fundamentally believe in Seaside's approach of pairing education and action to tackle sustainability problems.
Not only are they actively involved in the community doing projects, but they're also involved heavily in education, and they try and bring people together.
There are so many projects I've worked on and I've seen that actually make the local community of Gloucester and Rockport and all other kinds of places so much more sustainable. I get to go from UMass to making a difference in Gloucester, two totally different places, and it really shows the power of remote work.
Seaside Sustainability is showing that a small organization can have a profound impact.
By making a difference, I can help my community and preserve our world's oceans.
So in education today, sustainability is regretfully not a focus, and I believe it will not become a focus for at least 15 years. Schools in the United States are vested in STEM education: science, technology, engineering, and math. And since STEM is an incredible gateway to sustainability, and they are intrinsically linked, that is what gave me the idea to start a program called the National STEM Honor Society, which is available to students from kindergarten all the way through college. Our tagline is "From K to Career," and we now have chapters from all over the world. Here is a great video that illustrates our program and all that it offers.
Are you looking for a community to connect, inspire, and reward high-achieving students in STEM? If so, we invite you to join National STEM Honor Society, where our mission is to inspire and recognize excellence from K to career. Our project-based learning framework helps students thrive in both online and brick-and-mortar learning environments. Young scientists can join as early as kindergarten. Research supports that children who are exposed to rich, challenging environments for learning science at an early age build the foundations for a lifetime of STEM achievement. Chapters can be formed in elementary, middle, high school, and college, creating an exciting track to grow STEM enthusiasm and involvement. Here's how it works. Any school can start a National STEM Honor Society chapter for a minimal fee. Membership is based on GPA in STEM classes only, total STEM classroom hours, and enrichment project-based learning hours. We understand that educators are busier than ever and value projects that fit seamlessly with their existing systems. Member chapters benefit from the extensive and well-organized student toolkit, advisor toolkit, and over 3,000 curated resources which can be sorted for easy access to the most impactful, saving students and advisors valuable time. Please share your passion for STEM by clicking on the link at the end of this video to learn more about how to form a chapter. Thank you.
So using the same model as we did for Seaside Sustainability, we created an internship program that has even more impressive statistics in terms of numbers of interns, hours, and numbers of accredited colleges and universities. Take a look at this video from National STEM Honor Society internship.
I would describe it as the frontier of technology and science in our modern world.
NSTEM is a community of highly diverse individuals with all different backgrounds.
And we're all ultimately here to inspire people from K to career about the STEM field.
It is the future of our world and our society, and the younger generations are the future of STEM.
It also allows you to grow as a STEM leader and student, where we inspire students from K to career towards the STEM industry.
At NSTEM, I'm one of the co-directors of Human Resources. And a large aspect of that is just bridging the gap between the intern and the organization as a whole.
As a director of public relations, we work on getting out to the public, and we want to make sure that our audience is excited about what NSTEM is doing and what we're doing as an organization to help young minds gain careers in STEM.
Final launch poll. I'm a part of the computer science and tech team, info collection team, and campaign team. One really cool thing that I've been able to work on is translating the site from English to Spanish, which I think is really cool because it'll make it more accessible to so many more people, so many more students. You know, ever since I joined NSTEM, I just continue to learn new things, new skills.
This internship has been beneficial to me by giving me valuable experience in the marketing field and has helped me gain a clearer understanding of where I want to go with my future career.
I'm able to assert myself in challenging positions and be confident within myself while making long-lasting relationships with my colleagues.
I've learned how to problem solve and how to use my creative thinking skills and think outside of the box, and it's been more than what I could have learned in the classroom. It's an awesome experience.
Everybody that I get to work with is so smart and so driven, so I can only imagine what they'll be able to accomplish in the future, and I'm so honored to get to be a part of working with them.
LCUUF permission to launch.
It's so important to reach out to the younger generations, especially in regards to STEM, because it is the future of our world and our society. NSTEM's belief in project-based learning and their outreach to students is something that I really value, and it really just goes to show how they are impacting STEM long-term.
It's one of the rare places that is constantly evolving today. It's constantly going to the next gen, always getting better and better.
The future of STEM is here. It's right now.
It has the ability to revolutionize in all fields of study, whether it be science, engineering, technology, or mathematics.
The crucial work that we're putting in can inspire future generations and anyone of any age, really, to enjoy the possibilities of what STEM has to offer, and together we can make a difference.
T minus 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So thank you for putting that on. Let me leave you with this short inspirational video on pursuing your dreams and passions.
I don't know what that dream is that you have. I don't care how far-fetched it might appear to be. I don't care how disappointing it might have been as you've been working toward that dream. But here's what I know, that dream that you're holding in your mind, that it's possible.
It's one small step for man.
You dedicated yourselves to helping others and to making their lives better and healthier and longer. But every day you will be actively and specifically making this world a better place.
Every child deserves a champion, an adult who will never give up on them, who understands the power of connection.
You have to know within yourself that I can do this. Even if no one else sees it for me, I must see it for myself. That's necessary.
Thank you, Eric. This work is really inspirational, and I am so proud of your efforts. But let's look at how well the world is responding to this incredible challenge. Even though there was a pandemic across the world in the past year and a half, its temperature has continued to rise. Wealthy nations have fallen behind on their climate finance commitments. Ahead of the G7 summit, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called on leaders to honor their collective pledge to support low-income countries in tackling climate change and drive the global transition to a carbon-free world. G7 leaders are now expected to act swiftly to fill the remaining gap exceeding the $100 billion target before 2025 and to double their bilateral climate support to $66 billion by 2025. In 2009, wealthy countries agreed to raise their contribution and meet an overdue pledge of mobilizing over $100 billion a year to help poorer countries cut emissions and cope with the consequences of climate change. Unfortunately, it is unlikely that this $100 billion target will be reached by 2022. Reality is that between now and 2025, climate finance must significantly exceed $100 billion to adequately support developing economies' needs in meeting the climate crisis. In negotiations leading up to the G7 summit, finance ministers have left the door open for some leaders in the group to increase their climate finance pledge. In the words of Jennifer Morgan, who is the executive director of Greenpeace International, she says, "This is a moment when the G7 could have shown historic leadership, and instead they left a massive void." I quote Ms. Tibiani, "This leaves China to decide if they still want to be the backers of coal globally because they will be the only ones." She called the financing package for vulnerable countries lacking. In the face of the perfect storm of planetary crisis, climate, COVID, injustice, and ecosystem collapse, the world's richest democracies have responded with a plan to make a plan, but really not yet a plan of action. So this reminds me of the story of the Lorax, a popular children's book and movie developed by Dr. Seuss. A young boy living in a polluted area visits a strange, isolated man called the Once-Lure on the street of the lifted Lorax. The boy pays the Onceler 15 cents, a nail, and the shell of a great 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 grandfather snail to hear the legend of how the Lorax was lifted and taken away. So here's the Lorax, and here's the Onceler. He tells the boy of his arrival in a beautiful valley containing a forest of trufula trees and a range of animals. The Onceler, having once searched for such a tree as a trufula, cuts one down and uses its silk-like foliage to knit something called a thneed, which is an impossibly versatile garment. The Lorax, who speaks for the trees, emerges from the stump of the trufula and voices his disapproval. I am the Lorax. I speak for the trees. I speak for the trees because the trees have no tongues. It's not about what it is, it's about what it can become. However, sadly, the very next person who stops by purchases the thneed, this versatile garment, for $3.98, which is equivalent to about $25 in 2021. So, the Onceler is encouraged and starts a business making and selling thneeds. He starts small, but the business is so successful that it grows, and keeps growing until it grows into a very big, maybe gigantic factory. And the Onceler tells the Lorax, business is business, and businesses must grow. The Onceler's relatives all come to work for him, and new vehicles and equipment are brought in to log the trufula forest and ship out the thneeds. The Lorax appears again, this time to report that the small bear-like barbaloots who eat trufula trees are short of food and had to be sent away to find more edible food. But business continues and grows and grows and grows. The Lorax again returns. This time he complains that the factory had polluted the air and the water and forces the swami swans and the hummingbirds to migrate as well. The Onceler is unrepentant and defiantly tells the Lorax he will keep, I quote, biggering his business until the inevitable happens. Once the Onceler's many machine chops down the very last trufula trees of them all. Alas, without any raw materials, the factory shuts down, and the Onceler's relatives promptly abandon him in the now decimated environment. The Lorax says nothing, but with one sad backward glance, he lifts himself into the air by the seat of his pants and disappears behind the smoky cloud. Where he last stood is a small pile of rocks with a single word that says, unless. Distraught by the destruction of the forest, the very, very depressed Onceler punishes himself for his actions, exiles himself to a lonely structure in the area, and ponders this message for years. Many years later, the young boy now grown, finds the onceler, who finally gives him something very, very special. He has finally figured out what the word unless means. And I quote, "Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not." And he finally begins to make things right and give hope. So the onceler says, "Catch." He lets something fall. It's a truffle seed. It's the last one of all. You're in charge of the last of the truffle trees, and the truffle trees are what everyone needs. So please, plant a new truffula, treat it with care, grow a forest, protect it from axes that hack, then the Lorax and all of his friends may come back. This is the story of hope. After incredible destruction and devastation, there is hope that people will recognize how to right conditions and return the earth to a more sustainable environment. May it be, may it be, may it be. This is the time in our service when we ask that you remember that we share our gifts through pledging and donations. We will pass the donation basket at the fellowship. For those of you watching on Zoom, instructions for payment to the fellowship are on a slide during the announcements before the service each week. And while you're considering your gifts to the fellowship, remember that each month LCUUF donates 5,000 pesos or more to an organization providing food aid in our lakeside community. For the month of July, we've been supporting Operation Feed, an organization that provides food assistance to the San Juan Coastal community. When you pay your pledge, please add something to share the basket as you use to place pesos in our physical basket. You can donate in the same way that you pay your pledge, but please donate share the basket separately or indicate what part of your donation is for share the basket. Your offerings are gratefully received. Now let us extinguish our chalices with these words which we read together.